Welcome to topic 10, evaluating IMC campaigns. This will be your last topic that we will be covering for the purposes of your examination. We will be revisiting this topic based on our lectures this week, which was Wednesday the 25th of April. We covered majority of content with the exception of the last 5 slides. So what I'm promised to do is that I'm going to run through this particular PowerPoint, just providing an overview on the existing slides that we have covered for the evaluation purposes, and we will conclude with full material, full notes that have been underlined in the remaining last 5 slides so that you can complete at home with your own existing notes. So let's start this. So we know that there is a valuable need for evaluation regardless of what campaign you do. You need to be able to review and reflect on the performance of that IMC campaign. In order to do this, there are multiple stakeholders that you need to take into consideration and think of what questions they are asking you to address. So, evaluation of individual marketing messages. You are very aware of the importance of having clear objectives which will drive the campaign, and essentially it's those objectives that need to be evaluated at the end of the day. So, evaluation of the overall IMC campaign can be literally the impact and effect on the audience, but that is so much more complicated than the actual spoken written word. How do we assess this impact and the effect on the audience? What does this look like? Is this return on sales? Is this brand awareness? Is this new product development? Let's move on. So advertising. So when we are evaluating advertising in terms of messages, we need to think about awareness. We need to think about brand choice, purchase likelihood, the viewing time, brand perceptions, and possibly any memory-based tests that do exist. To ensure that communication objectives are met, there are these following dimensions of the IMC that we covered in our lecture. Any good form of advertising will have a pre-testing mode. With this pre-testing mode, you need to make sure that you're refining the commercial and validating the creative idea by seeking audience input as early as possible. So, for example, Maltesers have successfully launched their second Live on the Light Side campaign with the Maltesers ads, and essentially what they try and do through these particular campaigns is to reflect on underrepresented populations. So previously they've had people with disabilities in advertisements in 2016, which is one of their most successful campaigns to date. But in 2018, they're now representing underrepresented female population within advertising, which makes for extremely interesting viewing. What they did in relation to this particular campaign development is that they had focus groups that spoke to women and got their ideas and their stories, and right up to sort of the pre-launch of this particular campaign, they actually put it on to a testing page that their own employees and potential candidates could review, provide feedback. So there's concept testing to be able to identify and build on the good ideas and reject those that are not deemed appropriate. We have this example of the storyboard concept testing. The storyboards and basically a roughly drawn version. And if this is a case where for the Moodle Manor you're using this approach, then why not have a visual to assist your written word? So focus groups can exist in consumer juries. Very informative feedback, but you need to make sure that the right questions are being asked in order to get the valuable insight and to be able to inform the direction of that campaign. So there are dummy vehicles that exist, and the importance of readability is extremely important. There's theatre tests, and there's also projective techniques. Each one of these are possibly just as good as each other, but depend on the resources of the firm, both time and cost, what they can actually use in terms of pre-testing finished ads. There also are psychological measures. These are extremely detailed, and possibly these are the really larger global commercial firms who have the ability to do this. There's also then post-testing, extremely important. So you've pre-testing and you post-testing, and basically measuring the number of direct responses to an advertisement. You have recall tests. Some may be unaided, some may be aided, but typically is a good measurement of ad awareness, but possibly a poor predictor of sales. There's also recognition tests, which is extremely important, common in print advertising, and you can see the readership scores and the explanation associated with this. Sales tests, exactly what is the return, what's measuring differences in sales during and after the campaign. Not necessarily too concerned about the simulated market tests and single source data for the purposes of your examination. So in evaluating PR, so you've had evaluating advertisements, and now we have evaluating public relations. Extremely important to be able to evaluate and understand sort of the generation of goodwill towards an organisation. Also, by evaluating public relations, what are the basic outputs here? Extremely important. Outtakes and outcomes. This particular page should be very interesting to you if you are using any form of social media or public-facing events. We have this lovely pyramid, McNamara micro model of public relations, and possibly you could adapt this in terms of your coursework for inputs, outputs and outcomes in terms of sample evaluation methods and metrics. Just awareness, really evaluating public relations in terms of the corporate image and recruitment. And we also have the aspect of crisis management, extremely important. Evaluation concerns of key stakeholders' perceptions and opinions before, during and after the crisis occurs. So this is where we stopped the last day, and this is where I'm going to highlight the missing material from your actual notes. So 2 ways to develop brand promise. Make loud claims about the brand and product attributes, and to under-promise and over-deliver. So in relation to Moodley Manor, be realistic about what you can achieve, and it's better to actually under-promise something and over-deliver on that as opposed to being over-promising and under-delivering. The need for consistency in brand experiences, thus measures of brand experience, must be evaluated. So there is a level of expectation by the consumer in relation to a brand. And it's very much important to identify the likelihood for brand advocacy. Remember, we as consumers are advocates of brands, even though we do not get paid for being an advocate. So it's involuntarily, it's based on a loyalty, an inherent loyalty or a familiarity with a particular brand where we become advocates in our own right. Measuring online communications. There are numerous challenges for many companies. Measuring the effectiveness and impact of online communications is very difficult. It is much more than counting clicks and video views. The whole idea of CTRs, which is the click-through rate, and the dwell time measures are less important, but there's no need upon industry standards for a measurement. But I say that they are less important, but they're still good to have. There are channel contributions within an IMC campaign. So let's take a look. So there's the last click, there's a time delay, there's an efficiency score, a statistical, and in this table you see the advantages and disadvantages for each. So there is these challenges, and how these counting clicks and video views turn into something that correlates to brand awareness or to sales is not necessarily that clear. So when we are measuring mobile effectiveness, we are looking at the following. So it's important to evaluate the context of the mobile use, location, time, proximity, and the type of mobile device. And issues, naturally enough, concerning privacy and data integration. As you're aware, the data regulation is coming in now on the 25th of May 2018. So it's extremely important to have your data and the privacy concerns in relation to organisation completely clear and transparent. And it's also important to measure mobile engagement in terms of cognitive, behavioural and emotional. So when talking about cognitive, we're talking about campaign awareness, message recall. Behavioural is the view through, the movement, the calls, and the emotional is the perception of favourability or the loyalty to your brand. These particular aspects, cognitive, behavioural and emotional, go right back to your original lecture notes in topic 1 and topic 2. So you can see that there's an overflow of material that you will be able to review and revise, that follow through from the initial topics in topic 1, 2, right through to 4 and 5, right through to 9 and 10. Measuring social media. So obviously, at the middle is the return on interest. The value really is to make sure that all this hard work that you put in has some return on investment, So really, well, it should be return on interest, brand awareness, etc., but also return on investment. So what money has been put in will actually transfer and accumulate into a higher return. So evaluation takes the form of listening and monitoring, third-party owned channel performance and competitor tracking, the social CMS analytics and platform analytics. You can see that sometimes there's wrong key performance indicators, and there's benchmarking problems. So maybe a campaign that's carried out before wasn't correct, and you possibly as an organization have used that particular campaign to benchmark for the next campaign, which isn't possibly the right thing to do. You have fake followers, you have vanity metrics, you have perverse incentives, or maybe offline measures. So there's challenges to the efficient and effective measuring of social media. But you can see how it could be evaluated through this listening and monitoring. And we talked about the whole idea of social listening, and using social media as a listening platform. And you can see the value of that in terms of moodly manner. This is our final slide on measuring social media. This is a figure provided by Murdo 2009, and this provides the core phases of social media measurement. You will see that originally missing from your own text is the word concept. Concept is to define what is trying to be accomplished and how we know if we've succeeded. Then we move on to definition, which is to outline social strategy and insight and optimization approaches to achieve the goals set out. Design enumerates social tactics and measurement enablement methods for the program. This moves on to another missing line that you have in your core text is the deployment. So to actually implement and launch the program, ensuring proper execution and accurate performance data collection. And finally, with this optimization is to synthesize the social performance drivers and identify actionable opportunities for program adjustment. And then this leads back into the cyclical process of back to being concept. You could apply this to the Moodle Manor coursework. It's not necessarily. It is a nice diagram. If it has relevance, then do that. So at this stage, you have a succinct overview of evaluation. Please make sure that this is considered thoroughly for your coursework 3 and that you refer to this for the purposes of your examination in May. I wish you every success with the examination and your revision over the next coming weeks. If you have any further queries, please feel free to contact me on my email, christina.o'connor@mu.ie. Otherwise, please feel free to speak to me this week in our final lectures, week 12.